Something happened to Leon over at that job. Something nobody's told us yet. Anybody tell you anything you didn't tell me?
All they told me was that something dropped and hit him on the skull. That's the whole thing.
Something else happened. It did.
Okay. I'll see what I can find out. Okay?
There we go. That was a clip from God's Pocket, and I'm delighted to be joined now by one of its stars, Christina Hendricks, and the director, John Slattery. Hello.
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 How are you both?
I'm well. You
Nice.
well?
Very well. Yeah. Yeah. I feel good.
Good, like James Brown.
Like James, but not as good as James Brown.
I've got to say, first up, what a cast for this film. I mean, wow. Obviously, we've got Christina, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John Turturro, the great Eddie Marsan, amongst many
That's how I
others,
describe
Richard
him all the time.
Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins.
But that's the kind of poster you see. I mean, we have posters here in London on the Underground, and you see those names and you go, wow, that's the film I want to see. Can you tell me about getting everybody together, getting the gang together and casting it?
Yeah, I was directing Christina in a scene from Mad Men, and I was struck by how perfect she'd be for Jeannie. And I think I gave you the script, and there was a small possibility that the movie could happen in a year earlier than it did. So I said, here's the script, and if you have anything else to do, I think this is going to happen, and I think Phil's going to be able to do it. And then Phil was able to do it, and then with Christina and Phil, and that script, which is a tribute to Pete Dexter,
Who wrote the book?
Who wrote the book?
Yeah.
And I adapted the screenplay, but it was all Pete Dexter. Armed with the script, Christina and Phil, everyone, I literally have made one phone call, and everyone said yes.
And were these all people you knew and had worked with before, or?
I'd worked with Phil. Obviously, Christina and I had worked together. I don't think Richard Jenkins and I knew each other, but had never worked together. John Turturro, no. I mean, I hadn't worked with any of the other actors.
Can you tell us a bit about Jeannie, then, your character, Christina?
Well, this is a woman. I was intrigued when I read the script because this is a woman that in the span of a couple days has lost her son, is feeling sort of gaslit by this entire community that she's lived in her entire life. Her husband's not taking care of her. She doesn't know how to ask for what she needs, and all these sort of extreme things are happening to her. And so I was just intrigued how to discover that woman and play that woman, having so much happen in such a short amount of time.
And era-wise, this is, what, late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, late 70s, yeah.
Okay. I particularly like there's a lot of browns and yellows in there, aren't there? Which,
yeah,
I mean, really,
yeah.
which is the decor and the fashion of that era, isn't it?
It is, and then when we did some camera tests, Lance Accord, the great Lance Accord, who shot the movie, realized that blue didn't look so good. And we were going to shoot color reversal stock. We literally couldn't get film. They didn't make the film anymore. So we ended up shooting it digitally, but in testing we realized that those colors worked with the yellow. John Turturro and Phil both wear yellow a lot in the film, as in the book. So we eliminated blue pretty much from the palette, and it's consciously looks the way it looks.
That yellow polo shirt that John Turturro wears, that is amazing. I want to get one of those. That is a serious piece of outfit.
It's pretty scratchy, I think.
Very scratchy, but so chic.
His yellow Cadillac. He came in with those
I like
sunglasses.
your shirt. It's so scratchy.
It's, a woman named Donna Zukovska did the costumes, and she's brilliant. And all that stuff, I don't know where she found all that stuff.
So this is Philadelphia, right, it's set in?
It is. It's sort of about as vaguely as it's set in 1978. Purposely, we didn't have we couldn't shoot in Philadelphia, so we shot in Yonkers, New York. But if you look at the detail, the police cars, the uniforms, it is Pennsylvania.
Okay,
Philadelphia.
Is there then a Pennsylvania, Philadelphia accent that you have to use?
One thing that we discussed that beforehand, and John wanted this to be sort of a representation of it could be so many kind of communities in so many different cities, and we didn't want to make it specific because I think it becomes incredibly relatable to a lot of people. So we discussed ahead of time to sort of keep it a bit sort of a neutral American accent.
This, of course, is your first film as director, but you mentioned that you directed episodes of Mad Men as well.
Right.
Was it during those episodes that you thought, you know what, the movie is what I want to do, this is what I want to do next? Or had you always wanted to do it?
Well, I didn't so much want to direct. I read the book about 10 plus years ago, and then tried to get the rights, couldn't. Tried again about 5 years after that, and then wrote a draft of the screenplay in anticipation of being able to get the rights. Was told it wasn't available, so I just kept writing it without the rights to it, and then Mad Men started, and then a couple of seasons into that, I asked if I could throw my hat in as a director, and by the time I had directed 4 or 5 of them, the draft of the screenplay, I had written subsequent drafts, and it was ready. So it just became the next kind of logical step. It wasn't as calculated as it's maybe appears.
And do you think there's a difference when an actor is directing you?
There's all sorts of directors, some more technical than others. I think specifically with John, obviously we'd worked together for years, and he knew what I responded to, and but I think an actor knows how to talk to another actor, knows how to get the emotions or get the point across, maybe quicker and clearer. And yeah, I mean, it was very, very collaborative and very creative and very clear what John wanted, which is nice as an actress.
Because you've just made a film with Ryan Gosling as director as well, haven't
Yes.
you? Obviously another actor
Yes.
directing. Is that the same thing with him? How is he as a director?
Entirely different directors. Both knew exactly what they wanted and was very specific, but sort of went about that in a very different way. And it was exciting to work with both of them and see how different they worked.
Were you ever thinking about being in the movie as well?
No, I was asked, but first of all, the time issue of being in the film, and I've done it on the television show. You have to shoot the thing and then go out and watch it, and it's a split focus. It's not one I wouldn't welcome, but given the time constraints and that it was my first time, and I just didn't want to add that to the list. And Richard Jenkins was kind enough to say yes. That was probably the only part that I would be right for. And, if you can get Richard Jenkins, you should probably get Richard Jenkins.
I mentioned the great Eddie Marsan, as I called him. I'm a huge fan of him, and obviously.
So
greatest.
great.
Can you just tell me about working with him and what presumably had you seen him in the British movies he'd done, or was it more the American
I'd seen him in
things?
something. I think Mike Lee film,
Yeah.
maybe the first time I saw him. And he was the first person that I thought of. That's the first person I thought of to play Smiling Jack Moran, the funeral director. Thank God we got him. We almost didn't. It was really difficult because he has a family and he lives here, and everybody. That was the hard part, getting everybody in the same room at the same time. But and everyone else had given up, and we said, it's just not going to work. And I spent half the day sort of mourning the fact that he wasn't going to be in the film. And then I said, no, we can make this happen. I'm sure this is a miscommunication, and in fact it was, and we got him. There isn't a take that obviously we chose the ones we chose, but there isn't one thing he did in the film that I couldn't have used in the movie. He's just, every single thing he did was gold. It was great. He's the best.
It makes sense in being a funeral director as well. Those two things just they kind of work
so funny.
perfectly.
He's so sympathetic, and he's just and not a nice guy, and I mean, physical and fun. I mean, that scene when he gets slapped in the side of the head, and really got slapped like time and time again in the ear by Phil. And then that coffin lid falls down, I think, is one of the, that was a happy accident. That happened in rehearsal. The thing started to wobble, and I had someone go around behind the thing and just push it closed when he fell down. And I just thought it was so funny.
What are your memories of working with the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman?
The whole experience actually is very, very vivid to me. I think because I was so excited to work with him that I think I just watched him like a hawk the whole time. Just wanted to see how he operated and how he worked. And so each scene I remember very, very distinctly. And he was he was very gracious and very collaborative and very passionate about his work, and it was just so fun to watch him discover this character that he was playing and the way that he did it. And I was excited to find out that it wasn't dissimilar to the way I did it. And you look at Philip Seymour Hoffman, you think, oh my gosh, I do something almost like him, you know. And then, you just it was like just amazing to watch him work. And I hope that I learned from him, and I'm grateful.
Because there must be a situation when you find out the cast of a film or a TV show that you're working in, and these are people perhaps you haven't worked with before, you don't know them, you are wondering whether you are going to gel, whether that sort of chemistry does happen or not. And that could be quite intimidating, I suppose.
Absolutely, especially when it's someone that you admire so greatly, and yeah, you hope that you can play ball with them, and they're excited to work with you, and going into a new film, it's always sort of like the first day of school. You don't know how people are going to be, or how you're going to be, or how to act. And I think that was one really nice thing about working with John, is we'd known each other for so many years, and there was all this newness around us. And to look across the room and see John and know I trusted him so much, and I had the support system there was really fantastic throughout the whole process of it.
And it's been an experience that makes you want to direct film number 2?
It is. It has been, yes. If I could find a story I liked as much as this one, which I haven't found yet, I would happily do it again. That's the thing that I came away with, was that you really better believe in that story, because your initial vision of it will inevitably be compromised one way or another. Some actor won't be available, or you won't have the location you need, or you won't have the time, or it'll change. So yeah, it's important to me to find a story that I connect with as strongly as I did with this.
And do you actually go looking, or are you just waiting for one day you're in an airport, you pick up a book and you read it, and that's the book?
No, I'm looking. I'm taking a little time off. We just finished shooting Mad Men, and I haven't had nothing to do in quite some time, so I'm enjoying that. But yeah, reading. I like the process of. I don't really consider myself a screenwriter, but the process of turning maybe a book or something, or a play, or into a screenplay, I enjoyed very much. So yeah, I'm looking.
You mentioned that you just finished Mad Men. I mean, finished for good, Mad Men. Let's just end on those last few days and few hours of filming. How were they?
It was very emotional for me. I think for everyone, it was very special. Everyone was there on the last day, and we were all there for each person's last scene. And as each person wrapped up and finished, we had an opportunity to thank our crew and thank our cast for the experience. And Matt Weiner said, words to each person, and it was just, there were a lot of tears and a lot of laughs, and we kind of just stuck it out all day long and stayed up all night with one another and just didn't really want to say goodbye. Yeah,
it was. I knew it would be emotional. I didn't know when it would hit me, and it actually hit me at about 6:30 in the morning when we were all leaving, and I kind of
That's
dissolved.
right. We stayed till 6:30 in the morning.
That's a party. That is a party.
Yeah, it was just it was a lot of life led in those years, so we all became very close.
But now, of course, there's quite a gap until those episodes air.
Right.
So you're going to have all those feelings come back to you, presumably, when they air next year.
I feel sort of lucky. I mean, we all get to go to the Emmys this year together and celebrate the work that we did, and then there is still one season that the audience hasn't seen. So if I can live with this as long as possible and hold on to it for a little bit longer, I feel appreciative of that.
And God's Pocket is out this week. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.